So I'm laying here in a duck pond, and just duck complaining. And everybody knows I have an affection for Jamie Russell. I really love the guy. And I'm thinking, what happened to Jamie to put him in this SDA depression that he's in? Seriously, Duck Anti Defamation League. That'd actually be SDAL, but let's just stick with the SDA because I'm just coming up with this stuff off the cuff. So I'm thinking, okay, I know Jamie lives up there in like northern Oregon, southern Washington, somewhere up in those northern 50 states, even Alaska, even. But I do know this. His parents, when he was young, took him to the University of Oregon and he became a U of O Ducks fan. And so he grew up saying, "Go Ducks." So he grew up seeing Donald Duck, which was his favorite character from Disneyland. And then here he is in Oregon at a football game, and Donald Duck is there. And so Jamie grows up around, all of these cartoons. Go Ducks, go Ducks, everybody go Ducks. We celebrate Ducks, you know? And there he is again. What a handsome duck. This is Dr. Donald O. Duck. That's kind of why Jamie gravitated to me, because he knows I'm a big quack. And, Smokey calls me Dr. Kinney. So you put three and three together, you got four, and here you go. So what happened to Jamie? Well, after getting season tickets and growing up into be a bigger boy, like 30, and one day his parents are there and he's there and he goes, "I want to pet the duck." And they're telling him, "Honey, honey, honey, it's not a duck." And he's going, "Yeah, no, it is a duck. Look, it's got a bill, and it's got it fuzz, and it's got even a little hat on and web feet, and I just saw the water roll off its back." And he says, "Mom and Daddy, it's a duck." And so they go, "Honey, honey, honey, it's not a duck." And so Jamie runs down onto the field and he runs up to the Go Ducks mascot and he gives him a big old ducky hug. And he squeezes so hard that the ducky's head falls off. And he sees that there is just another boy his age in a duck costume. And, Jamie's actually in his freshman year now at the University of Oregon, and he's at his football game, and he's got his girlfriend who happens to be Jamie as well. Really weird because Jamie has a girl's name. And so he meets a girl named Jamie, and her name happens to be Russell, Jamie Russell as well. Poor guy. This is a whole nother story, but he was walking in front of a mirror, just like the other video, So that's like, you know, it's following me now because he got scared and it disappears, it comes back. So, what happened to Jamie in his years of college? Well, this is, I had to do a little bit of research and this might dox Jamie, but, you know, really, Jamie quacked up after this because he had been singing, "We know we want to quack." And he started a scandal because he turned to that evil cannabis. Yeah, cannabis people. Jamie turned to vaping cannabinoid acids for his ADHD because he was a late life, diagnosed person, and that's why I kind of take baths too, because I like to pretend I'm in a duck pond. And of course, Tammy got me a little rubber ducky too. So, but look at the headlines. The University of Oregon celebrated ducks. Look, celebrated ducks. Do you get the picture? Watch this. Okay, so we have the celebrated ducks. Okay. These celebrated ducks were, I drew a Jewish duck. It's got a giant nose, or they call them bills. But anyway, so the University of Oregon celebrated ducks have gone. They flew the coop, so to speak, to pot. People, that's the scientific word for cannabinoid acids, which work on the receptors CB1, CB2 in our brains. But anyway, the scientific term is pot or dope. So according to the Eugene Register, Gators, no, what does that say? The Duck Guard, no, crap. I got to get me some new glasses or something. I'm never going to make it as a news reporter now. Hope nobody sees this. But the Eugene Register Guard says this. A report on marijuana used by college football players published Wednesday. So Jamie turns into a doping duck. And now he used to go to the football games and scream, "Go Ducks!" And once he found out that the University of Oregon Ducks weren't ducks, he's now traumatized, and anything that looks, sounds, quacks like a duck is not a duck. And so the only animal that he sees as potentially a duck is the platyduck, which follows his theological method as well, piecemealing various things that, the prophet may or may not have said. So call me a duck prophet, but thus saith the Lord, this is what Jesus told me about Jamie, because he appeared to me in a dream just a few moments ago when I was passed out here in the bath, sloppy drunk and high as a kite on cocaine cigarettes. And I had a vision. Jamie, please reach out to me. I know what you're going through. You got to use a little bit of a Thomistic synthesis and proper epistemological approach to the world, because you'll get fooled into thinking somebody's a duck, and then you'll deny the real duck. Let us pray. Please reach your hand toward your computer screen, and then with the other hand, reach into your neighbor's pocket and send me as much money as you can real fast before you get caught. Amen.
Lovely.
Amen.
Amen. Oh, outstanding. How you doing tonight, Kenny?
Not too bad. I slept in today because I didn't fall asleep till about 5 o'clock this morning because I've got this rib that likes to pop out of my vertebrae. Quite painful.
Ah, that's why you're going to be keeping me up all night. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And, Tammy's not here, so I can't bug her.
That's unfortunate.
It really is. It really is, because I'm really good at bugging her.
Now, I opened the file, and now all of a sudden it has disappeared, and I don't know why that's happened, unless it opened it. Oh, there
Well,
it
I
is.
do have the print copy if you want me to read it for you so you can read it better.
No, I have it. I have it to put it on the screen. I just needed to figure out how to... Here, hold on. I have to make sure it's zoomed up correctly, too. And we get to the right section. Okay. All right, there we go.
Do you have this streaming on my channel too?
I do.
Good on you.
Yes.
Very clever.
I figured this was something that we would handle collectively, probably stream collectively. I figured you'd be cool with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, and we have a huge audience of a whole whopping 2 people. You can tell how interested they are in the content matter. This is
story of my life.
Well,
Story
also
of my
the
life.
fact that it's like 3 a.m. on the East Coast, that probably has something to do with it too. I don't know who's really awake.
Well, it
right
could,
now.
yeah, it could.
Yeah. So this is The One Who Is. This is Kenny's book, and Kenny wanted to go through. There he is, that handsome devil. He looks nice with shorter hair.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Look at that. Tammy says the same thing. You know what? I'm telling you, I'm thinking you and Tammy have got to be related somehow because you guys say the same thing. She wants me to cut my hair like nobody's business, but I'm stubborn that way.
Is that great minds think alike. That's the reason.
Well, she's definitely a great mind. Look who she married.
Sure. So chapter 5 was what Kenny wanted to go over, and this is 238 pages for the chapter. So I hope you guys are ready to... I'm kidding. I don't think it's that long. I don't know how long it is, but Kenny's chapters are
No.
long.
Yeah, it's and the main issue is really at the beginning of the chapter. But
Gotcha.
this will prepare anybody who's debating Muslims, so our good friends, what is it, Truth Seeker or Seeking Truth?
Mm-hmm.
I know he deals with Muslims.
Sure.
And I don't quite understand why Muslims mess this, predication of identity, versus nature and all this kind of stuff. It's like, this is so simple. I don't know why they make that fundamental mistake.
Well, having listened to it a bit more and more, I wonder, and I'm not maybe a little bit suspicious, that the Muslims that are communicating regularly from the perspective of metaphysics don't actually know a lot about metaphysics. Like, I think that
and may not even be real Muslims, really. Let's be honest.
Well,
in the West, you can't be a real Muslim.
Yeah, that too. That's a good point too. But really, what I think it almost seems to do is taking secular analytical philosophy and then attempting to claim it as a type of theological metaphysic. And I think that's a bit of an overreach and also a perversion of the depth of thought that is representative in the realm of theological metaphysics, which is a very, very deep treading territory in deep waters. And I think there are a few out there, some pretentious young kids who have a little bit of chops when it comes to, basic philosophy. And they think that training gives them a grand scope grasp over the entirety of anything to do with philosophy, which would include theology. And what's happening is that the basic tenets of the understanding of theological thought that have been relatively consistent over the last 2 millennia are rarely dealt with honestly, and in many instances seemingly not even known. Muslims asking pointed questions or trap questions to many Christians out there display full scale their theological ignorance about what the nature of the Christian God is even about. And so it gets very frustrating. The waters get muddied very quickly because the Christian and the Muslim and the atheist aren't really having the same conversation. The Muslim deity is strictly extremely analytical and quantifiable. Even in many instances can be argued to be physical. The atheist perspective of the existence of a deity is very shallow and very humanistic. And these are the presuppositions that they tend to bring to the conversation. They're not taking a stance of good recognition as to what the claim actually is, and yet will claim to do an internal critique. They're doing so of straw men, creating a straw man version of the Christian God in most instances to attack it. So, here, Kenny, if I could speak in anticipation, I believe I skimmed through this chapter a while ago, preparing for one of the debates or interactions I was having. And if memory serves, this chapter involves a lot to do with the essence and nature of God, as well as the mechanisms and methodology available to us to predicate or describe him. Am I off on that?
Well, I dealt with predication in another earlier chapter.
Oh, okay.
This chapter specifically, what I call it is the existential argument for God's existence.
Okay.
So I deal with, God as the uncomposed composer. And so I start off with, really what I'm suggesting, and then I go through being, essence, and existence. And then I deal with the distinction of essence and existence and show how it's actually a subordinated category under act and potency, and then causation. But basically, right at the end of page 81. So we're really looking at 20 pages that pertain to our future appearance on Sam Shimon or Shamoon's channel. So this will be the most helpful as far as understanding divine simplicity, but it also sets the groundwork for the doctrine of the Trinity as well. So
beautiful. Good to see you, Dave. Dave says, and I think that's interesting, Dave. I'm glad to hear you say that, because actually you're the second person to say that. You know who also said I'm like the Howard Stern of apologetics was Dr. Falk.
the devil. Oh,
Dr.
I'm sorry.
Falk, the devil. Now he's going to be offended you called him that.
No, I
Falk.
thought the devil said that. Dr. Falk
No.
is cool because I think he could kick my butt. But
Yeah,
other than
Falk
that,
referred to me as the Howard Stern of apologetics. So you're the second person to have said something like that. And yes, I think you can be Michael Savage. I think that's appropriate, and that's about right. I'm totally fine with that. Absolutely.
what do you think it means that people call me the Richard Simmons of apologetics?
And Shayla is here. Shayla, it is way past your bedtime. It is
Yes,
a school
it is.
night. It is a school night. I can
Go
just
Ducks.
see you in your little pink bedroom with all of your stuffed animals on the bed, with the blankets pulled up real high so that the light of your phone isn't illuminating the room, so that your parents will see it and come and yell at you for listening to Smokey at 3 a.m. You need to go to bed. It's a school night. Shame on you. Shame on you indeed. It's good to see you, sister.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I feel great that I'm not the one that's constantly scolding her. So thank you for that.
Bokey's in the back. I guess he could come in if you don't mind. Bokey.
Okie dokie, Bokey.
So
don't derail us, Bokey. I know you got ADHD real bad, so please don't derail us.
Shall we? Yeah, I'll get derailed real easy tonight. I had to get myself a cup of coffee because I told Kenny, I said I need coffee because your book's gonna put me to sleep. That's why I said I hope that's not the case. I already went through the first cup, so
Well,
I hope that's gonna be enough to keep going.
Tammy actually asked me to read it to her to put her to sleep at night. So
I believe
actually, when
that.
it first,
I believe
wow,
that. I
you
believe
are mean. Go ahead and kick me out now. Just kick me out.
So this is Kenny. When did you write this book, by the way? How old is this book?
Let's see. Came out in 2015, February.
Okay, so that's about 7 years ago. Okay, all right, interesting. Okay, all right, very good. Well,
I wrote it in my late 20s.
let's hope it's aged as well as Shayla, and let's see. We'll start getting into it.
Don't make that comparison because it ain't gonna work.
Okay. Chapter 5 is titled "The Existential Argument for the Existence of God, the Uncomposed Composer." Here's a quote from the author. God is
That would be me.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I think
just to make
I
this
think we
clear.
got that. Yes.
Please send money.
Yeah, I think we got that. It says God is the supply. God is the sublime, simple being, the uncomposed composer. And then we have a quote from C.S. Lewis. Says, "I felt in my bones that this universe does not explain itself." And then Cornelius Van Til. Why are you quoting a degenerate
I'm so
in your
sorry.
book? What's wrong?
I had foreseen that I would need to make nice with Darth Dawkins if he
You know
wanted
what
to debate
happened?
me, so I stuck it in my book.
It may be if you had met me a little bit before you wrote this book, you would have never dared to quote Cornelius Van Til. Maybe, just may. I don't know. Just saying, possibly. I don't. Van Til, I was not a complete idiot. Like I'm not saying that, but he made a lot of huge errors and systemic errors that he
Agreed.
really should have woken up to. But
agreed.
he did have some reasonably solid contribution, I think, to some systematic theology and exegetical thought. So not to dismiss him in entirety.
Right, and he was a classical theist, so and this is the
Sure.
context in which I'm quoting.
Sure. I would challenge his philosophical grasp of Calvinism. I would challenge it.
Not a duck.
Yeah, well, some of his quotes feel like I'm
Yes,
reading
it was.
something.
Yes, the double talk. It's that duck, not a duck thing.
It is the double talk. It sometimes what he's describing feels like I'm listening to Jamie Russell or C.J. Cox. It's just not. Oh gosh, this is ridiculous. Okay. I just have to. Everyone just needs to ask CJ outright: did God decree evil? Don't let him run around with the ordained nonsense. Just ask him outright: did God decree evil? Get him to finally just admit what he's actually saying, because he runs away from it, he dodges, he avoids. It's a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, Lena, I agree. Says, please do not throw everything that came from Cornelius Van Til out the window. No, I wouldn't. Even my statements against the man were primarily hyperbolic in order to pull out Darth's obsessive idolatry to the man. Anyway, Cornelius.
It's just his apologetic method. So
yes, his apologetic is absolute garbage. Okay. Says Cornelius Van Til says many confusions in the doctrine of God and many apologetic weaknesses could be avoided if God were understood first of all as being itself or as the ground of being. Being itself, that I like. The ground of being feels very overly connective in terms of reliance upon, the effect having a contingency upon the effector or the source or something like that. I like the idea of being itself.
Yeah,
like
it's analogical talk once again, but in the sense of ground, we might say the foundation, the source, the per se from which everything flows. So it's just simply the way of saying that if you're going to build a house, God's the foundation. There's no other foundation.
Sure,
is really
that's fine.
basically what that means. Yeah.
Yeah, the essential ontological root. Yeah, that's fine. Nothing else really. I mean, at least for Cornelius Van Til, I would give him credit for that. There's not an ability to necessarily rationalize everything with a consistent alignment to confidence and truth, unless you have something to ground as an ontological standard, absolute, or universal of that which is truth, or a source of truth, even, or where truth could even come from in terms of an actual proposition. So there are things to it that Cornelius Van Til did delve into that were interesting. Next is James E. Dolezal. And it says, existential absoluteness alone can ground all existential contingency and becoming. Let me read that one more time. Existential absoluteness alone can ground all existential contingency and becoming.
That would be in reference to divine simplicity. So we're saying existential in the sense of existence.
Right.
So the absolute, the necessary is what God is, really by definition, and of course by even investigation. That everything has to start or be grounded, as Plato says, in the one. So the one grounds the many. This is the philosophical principle. This is why we're looking for a gut theory, which means grand unified theory. So we're looking for the unity in the diversity of what we call a universe. No, I'm not even going to mention his name. It just means unity and diversity. It doesn't mean a single spoken verse. I'm sorry, I did it. Kent Hovind, he's a nincompoop. He thinks it means universe, a single spoken verse, and then he goes, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth." No, doesn't mean that. It's unity and diversity. It's the pursuit of e pluribus una, out of the many, one, university. This uni and diversity, these multiple departments. We are there, liberal arts studies. Each department should, interact with the other department. It doesn't happen these days, but that's the idea. It's a university, unity and diversity. E pluribus unum, out of the many, one. That's our nation. In God we trust. It's on our money. But this is a sound philosophical principle that dates back 2,500 years ago.
Okay, beautiful. Hello, Kincaid. How are you this evening?
Hi, Carl. I'm on a 5G network now.
You sound very crystal clear this time.
I know I do, because I paid for a nice modified phone. But
I'm really glad to hear that.
How does my vocal quality sound tonight? Because I have brand new Airbud Pros that Tammy bought me.
It sounds
and I didn't have to beg very much.
You should
that
tell
sucks.
her
I'm sending them back.
I saw you have an iPhone. What are you, gay?
Slightly.
Prayers for James. James is in the ER and unhurt himself again. James, you got to be careful. And yes, James, absolutely. If you would like to review a debate, absolutely, I'd be happy to do that with you. It'd be a fun time. Absolutely.
I'm thinking about setting up a debate here.
Did that say he hurt his back? Sorry, Will.
I don't know if it's back. He's back at the ER.
I hurt myself.
Okay,
back at the ER
again, and he's back at the ER. I don't know what he did.
Back pain is horrible.
I know what he did to himself, but Muslim metaphysician.
You make it sound like you took the razor and.
Yeah, Muslim metaphysician had a big ol' hoopla, hissy fit, bitch baby crying mess with Dr. Khalil Andani. Apparently was calling him a liar and a fraud and exposed. He pulled a CJ Cox basically. And yeah,
apparently Matt funny. Powell and Fuckface Magoo SFT
Donnie,
were they sucking each other off the other day. Oh.
Yeah, they did a fun time.
I only know because Knox back. And then Carl was like, "Did you know Knox back?" And I was like, "Nope."
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, put me in the ether. I'm gonna have to police the language again.
Sure.
So I'm watching you guys. I'm putting my owl glasses on.
News unit. That sounds miserable. Good luck with that. That sounds like I would rather chew on pieces of tinfoil rather than listen to that. That sounds absolutely horrible.
I want to set up a debate with somebody. I don't know who it would be. Just somebody who opposes this notion on reforming the prison system. Like, just kill everybody, basically.
Wait, that's the position you want to defend?
I don't know. Well, kind of, I guess. I kind of thought about it, and it does kind of boil down to that. It's like, once you get out of prison, if you're a felon, you just lose all your rights in most states. It's like all your constitutional rights. It turns out they're not rights.
Okay, this is distracting. Okay, we'll deal with that later. We're doing a review right now. We're doing this book thing. Okay.
So, Kenny, whose book did you plagiarize from to write this?
Smokey. I've known Smokey for like 50 years, and he fed this stuff to me, spoon-fed it to me, baby steps, and then I wrote it down after many years.
Jake is pulling a Darth on James. What Darth has been doing to me, Jake has been doing to him. Okay, sorry about your
I have one more thing I have to plug. Just one last thing. Shut up. It's on your community tab.
I'm tired, and you irritate me for some reason this evening. I'm not entirely sure why.
Welcome to my club, Will. I've been in the irritation category for years.
Me. I think that's what it is. Everyone's irritating me tonight. I think that's what it is.
Why?
Do you have irritable bowel syndrome?
Are you going to say it? Are you going to say it and let me continue with the clear?
Yeah, but I had to let you get through with your little sad party over how everyone's making you upsetty. Jesus Christ. Go to the community tab on Smokey's thing, and I'm literally in the middle of doing it. If you'd stop interrupting, why are you under talking?
Because you're literally experiencing lag right now. That's why.
That was a good one, Will. I'm proud of you with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I went inside.
Stop under talking him, Smokey.
Okay. So anyway, go to Smokey's community tab and vote on Piss Baby of the Week, because it's literally the whole show this week. Literally one big piss baby. Cheshire Vic versus Steve McRae. If you're not familiar, just go on fucking YouTube and type in the Steve McRae mod call. That'll bring you up to speed.
Hey, Will.
Kenny, I think is friends with Steve. I think Kenny.
Oh yeah. Steve and I are real good friends. Yeah, we slept together a few years ago.
Can we get on reading this beautiful book now?
I'd love to.
Thank you, Okie
I'd
dokie
love
Okie.
to. I'd love to.
Yes, proceed, sir.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, so
wonderful book.
Love you, Kincaid. I do love you. Being, existence, and existence. The ancient pre-Socratic philosopher Parmenides once said, "Whatever is, is. What would at first seem like an obvious proposition is one of the most basic principles of reality. This is what is known as the law of identity. B is B. The law of identity is an undeniable and self-evident truth. It asserts that each thing is what it is and is not another thing. Concerning this principle, Aristotle stated that a thing is itself, and to ask why a thing is itself is just a meaningless inquiry. The meaningless character of this inquiry is rooted in the self-evident nature of the law of identity. A statement is self-evident if the predicate is reducible to the subject, as in I am myself. Once the terms are understood, it is evident that the statement is true and corresponds to reality. The Thomist scholar Reginald Garrigou Lagrange states that which is, and cannot simultaneously not be. The added negation in the preceding proposition is a declaration of the law of non-contradiction. B is not B. It is another undeniable and self-evident truth. It states that something cannot be and not be at the same time and in the same way. To be or not to be may be the question as expressed by Shakespeare, but the answer will never be being is and being is not, at the same time and in the same way. To be is to exist, to be an individual. a primary substance. To be is to have being, and to be an existent being. Whatever is real and has real existence. That which is has real being, and not be is simply non-being. It is nonetheless, it is nothingness. Nothingness, as Jonathan Edwards quipped, is what sleeping rocks dream of.
Now, let me give you some context here. So, why am I laboring this point? Well, the law of identity and the law of non-contradiction are foundational to how we understand reality. It has been said that the law of non-contradiction is the creaturely side of the coin. So we start by seeing reality, and we know things by the law of non-contradiction. But God knows things by the law of identity. So I'm going to say, it's a positive versus a negative affirmation of reality. But these two principles, which are the laws of logic, throw in the law of the excluded middle, that grounds our epistemology. And here's where we must start. We have to start. And if we get this right, we're going to be able to walk to the absolute necessary, logically, ontologically, whatever else you want to call it, the necessity that God is. And I won't say too much because I'll give away the rest of where we're going. But this is really important. It sounds boring, but it's absolutely foundational from where our ground is to start the epistemology on our side. See, we see through a glass dimly. So we approach reality from the law of non-contradiction. I know that I'm not another, etc. So it can't be a hot and cold day at the same time and in the same way. That's the way I know reality. But God knows it positively because he knows the essences of everything perfectly.
Beautiful. Okay, excellent. Well, continuing. The laws of identity and non-contradiction are foundational for the discovery of truth and the knowledge of reality. The law of identity, B, is the affirmative statement about reality, and the law of non-contradiction, B is not be, is the negative statement concerning reality, which is existence itself. Being is, be is. That something is the greatest self-evident and undeniable existential affirmation that can be made. It's denial.
So this is related to why is there something rather than nothing. So we have to start on the side of something, which I later argue is actually the gratuitous act of God. There's no other reason than it was his good favor to create. He wasn't compelled. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Its denial is impossible because someone must be in order to deny anything, especially their own existence. It forces the discussion of reality into the realm of being. Why is there something rather than nothing? Nothingness cannot be discussed, defined, or imagined. All the questions of reality and reality itself must start with the gratuitous nature of existence.
Now, let me pause there. What's very interesting is that in the same way that we have to define that which is pure being or pure actuality in an analogical sense, an analogical predication, if you noticed, I used analogy to describe nothingness because the moment I actually univocally try to define nothingness, I'm in absurdity. So I have to use analogical terms. So that which sleeping rocks dream of is a word picture that actually encapsulate what nothingness truly would be, because rocks are conscious, rocks don't sleep, rocks don't dream.
Right.
So we can't univocally grasp pure act, nor can we grasp that which would be in a Thomistic medieval understanding, that which is prime matter, which would be the flip side of pure act. So it would be kind of like infinite potency in a certain sense. But again, it's a potency that has to be actualized by God, because you can't just have chance. And this is a whole nother issue. But even chance itself, because chance presupposes causation, chance is a mechanism of agency that has not hit its telos. So the atheist is really in a conundrum over this issue.
That which is there's an important ontological thing to recognize in terms of the nature of, how can I put this? Describing something that is primary and describing something that is dependent. Now, I can do it analogously, but let me try to be more specific. Something that is primary, something that is independent, something that is not of any causal or contingent relationship with anything else, is able to have a essence, an ousios, a definition. It's in its primary state. Then there is something that is a condition of that primary, or an instantiation, or something that extends from that primary. It can't be defined. In fact, not only can it not be defined, it can't even exist without the primary. So it's necessarily dependent. A good example would be good and evil. Good is the primary, because that can be defined in an ousios and in existence. Existentially, it can be defined independently, what goodness is. Evil, however, can only be defined via negation or via the reference of good, which means it can't possibly be primary. It has to be secondary. The thing that can be recognized in its positive definition, not its definition via negation, but its positive definition, is going to be primary to any of the other things that are secondary that relate to it. And those things will generally necessarily need to be defined or recognized only in relationship to the primary. Now, this is important because God is the great primary. So everything is existentially dependent upon him, which means that when Christians define the world and we are defining what things are, everything that we describe, everything that we talk about is a form of analogous mirroring of something that flows from the primary agent, all of it, because all of it is ultimately dependent upon him. Without him, none of this exists. And without him, none of this has any real substance or meaning. It's putting him at the base, the ontological priority of absolutely everything. And in doing so, that is where we get the justification of that which does exist. It exists because God made it exist. He is the primary. Now, an atheist is going to have to invoke generally a plurality of primaries that don't necessarily relate to each other and don't necessarily have any justification as to how they necessarily exist together. And the way to get away from that is to focus on the grounding of a singularity or a primary or an ultimate, something that sets the relationship, the metaphysical relationship between this plurality of things that seem to be universal and constant. And God is that thing. God is that being. So atheists challenging on the problem of good and evil, remember, and to challenge the atheist, that they can't ever claim that evil is the primary, because they are incapable of defining it without reference to good. Generally, they can define good. They'll say well-being, being kind, showing love. They can give an independent, definition of that which is goodness. Even if it's just a vague summarization, it's still a positive, independent definition. However, then get them to define evil. And it'll always be the negation of good, not showing love, the opposite of not doing good. They'll always reference good to describe it. This is how you know it's secondary. It's ontologically secondary. It's dependent. It can't be the primary state. And as you cycle this backwards to what is a primary? Is this a primary or is this dependent? And you work it all the way back to the root, and you get to the necessity of a singularity, an absolute, and a constant that relates all of these things and grounds them together and gives a justification and meaning for all of it. Without that, nothing is justifiably existentially real or true.
I find that interesting because I actually have a chart, table 9, that deals with these issues. It's actually way ahead of where we're going, but I deal with these things in my chart. It's page 157 for the one that's following along.
Okay.
The predication of being. So it's chapter 8. If you want to go there real quick before we, get back to it, but this might be a good time to talk about first level or first mode of being versus second level, second mode of being.
Sure. Let me figure
just
out
real fast. Yeah, it's just chapter 8.
What page am I? Well, wait, hold on. Well, make sure I don't lose where I'm at right now. Hold on. What is this? Page 1?
I think I have a hyperlink. I'm not sure how you're.
Oh,
157. Page 157. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you have the. Oh no, you have the.
No, I
Kindle
just wanted
copy,
to remember
but,
where I was before,
anyway.
because then
okay, it's the chart right after that. No, wait a minute. No, I think that's the end, right? Yeah, that's the end.
You said 157, right?
Oh, page 157. So it Kindle might be different. No, that's actually the end of the book. Go to chapter 8. You're just one chapter.
Okay, chapter 8.
One chapter or two chapters? Yeah.
Let me go back to the top, and I'll do the hyperlink thing.
Yeah. What are you viewing it in?
It's your I'm
Is it
viewing
the Kindle or
PDF? It's the Kindle. It's the second Kindle edition. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no page numbers on that one actually. I'm looking at the print.
Well, I mean the page numbers are up here, but it's not.
Yeah, they probably don't reflect the print. But just chapter 8. Okay. There should be a hyperlink there soon. There we go. Yeah, or table 9 even if you just want to click on that. Chapter 8's good too. Should be there in the table O contents. But...
God's form of spirit, essence, and existence.
Yeah, it just click chapter 8 because it's only a couple. Yeah, it's only a couple pages. So scroll.
Theology is a lie. Thick Shades 2022.
Keep on going. Next one, I do believe. We're getting close. It's in defining essence. Right there, you're real close. Ow.
Good Lord.
Okay. And there we go.
This one?
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is what we might call substance versus accident, or first level being versus second level being. So we might say accidents. What are accidents? Tallness, fatness, things like that. Well, what is the essential qualities, or how do we define a human being, which is what an essence is? Well, rational animal. Let's just stick with that. So tallness or anything like that is a accidental quality, a second level of being, because it has to inhere in a substantial form, or what we might call a substance. So on the left side of the chart, we have first level being. So we have substantial being. So quid est, what is it? So this is the essence. It's a thing. We predicate of it by the 9 categories. It's real being. So it has actual existence, like corporeal existence, if you will, bodily existence. First level mode. So it's what it is. It's the form, the essence, the quiddity. Now, when you look at the other side of the chart, you have this accidental being. And I want to jump down to the footnote where on Aquinas on simplicity. And it's Aquinas writes, being is predicated in many senses. Some things are called a being or said to be because they have existence of themselves, as substances do, which are beings in a primary and first sense, first level. Others are called being because they are affections or properties of substances, such as the accidents of any substance, second level. So anything that would not be essential to who I am as Kenny, who is an instantiated human being, let's say I'm a drummer. Okay, that's an accidental quality. It's still part of me, but it inheres in who I am because I've actualized that potency. So all of these categories are related. I know it's complicated. It sounds tough, but once you grab it, this is the way reality is. But we can go back to the chapter 5 now.
Okay. It was 52, I said, right? Page 52, I think. 52 or 57. Yeah, that's 52. Okay. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So whatever is, and is not another, will inexorably lead to the one who is absolute necessary being, ens necessarium, one who is pure actuality, actus purus, and one who is subsistent, being itself, ipsum esse subsistens. Whatever is. The first step necessarily depends on and leads us to the one who is. The last step in the analogy of being. For without the one who is, there could never be being. Whatever is. Reginald Garrigou-Lagrange writes, and I quote, if we maintain the absolute necessity of this principle, identity, we find that the supreme reality is identified with being as A is identified with A. The supreme reality, then, is not becoming, is not creative evolution, but is being itself, ipsum esse, ever identical with itself, in whom alone is essence, essentia, identified with existence, esse.
That is a definition of what divine simplicity is all about. Now, the interpretation of, or the implications is what is actually, that's where the disagreement lies. But as far as divine simplicity and that God has no accidental qualities, for example, if God was composed of righteousness, goodness, then those parts would have to precede him. And one grounds the many. So God absolutely has to be simple. There's no way of getting around it. We can't understand it. So everything has to be predicated of God essentially. So that is to say, Kenny has, let's say, goodness, but God is identified. His essence, who he is goodness. That's really hard for us to comprehend, but
Right.
It's all throughout Scripture. Divine simplicity is biblical. If you deny it, you're in serious trouble, because then you have God who's dependent upon something else for his existence, because who puts those parts of God together? So he either has parts or he doesn't.
Mm. So the essentialness of his being simply being his being. Number one is the instantiation of any and all other being. So the grounding and the foundation is in being itself.
Yeah, God is
So-
not even being in the sense of how we describe it. And let me explain it like this. So I have being, I have existence, but so does a rock. We both exist.
Right.
What's different between me and a rock? It's the essence that's behind and what has actually been instantiated, what has been created or caused to exist.
So this is, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. This is a primary being, while we are a secondary being. We are
Yeah, our existence is derived, but God has it essentially, because what his nature is life itself. It's to be.
right. Okay. Interesting. Okay, interesting. Yeah, that is an interesting way of thinking about it. Okay, continuing. The concept.
Hold on real
Yeah.
quick. I got a thought. Okay, so here's the issue, the problem with the ontological argument. And so I forget the name of the guy that comes back and he talks about the island, that he conceives of this necessarily existent island, et cetera. Well, here's the problem. There's nothing within the definition of an island that would inform us that part of its nature is to be. That's where the mistake was in coming against Anselm's argument. The way, gosh, I forget what his name was. He was actually another Christian. But this is the ontological one. Let's see. Once we go by way of remotion back to divine simplicity, now we can understand a little bit more about the nature of our reality. So once we grasp that God is simple, then we can understand where we are in the nature of existence. And now I forgot where I was even going with it, but it's late.
Yes, it is late. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing. The concept of being refers to what a thing is and that a thing is. What a thing is, essence, and that a thing is, existence, are distinct in creatures and things, but are identical in God.
Now, this is
Then,
the statement I started my debate with Matt Dillahunty with, and we got totally bogged down.
right. Yeah, couldn't get his brain around the concept of essence. Says this is to say, I think he was just being contrarian. I think he just didn't want to let you get your argument out. I really think that's all it was. Says this is to say that there is no distinction between the essence and existence of God. God's essence is existence, or God essentially of his essence exists. The question, what is God and is God, does God exist, are answered in the same manner. He is. This profound truth was presupposed and served as the backdrop of God's self-revelation to Moses. The philosophical underpinnings of God's self-explanation are too significant to ignore. God revealed himself to Moses as I am that I am, Exodus 3:14. God revealed himself as the very ground of being. This means that God is existence or being himself, pure life and pure existence. He is the ground of being, the reason for all existent being. All things merely share in being. All that is only has being by participation, esse commune. They only partake or receive being, which is essentially possessed by God. It is also very important to say that God is not the superlative of our kind of being, even though we call him the greatest conceivable being. The being of God must be understood analogically. God is not the highest existent within esse commune, but God is being essentially and primarily, while creatures only have being in a derived or secondary sense. God does not share in being, he transcends and is the ground of all existent being. God is subsisting being itself. So this is like where a atheist comes and challenges us sometimes, and they'll say something really asinine and stupid like, does God have a mind? Does God have thoughts? Does God have a brain? You know, they ask these types of things that require him to be directly one-to-one relatable with us. And like this can even be done, I think, in some ways if they want to attack the essence of being of God by too closely relating to us. When we talk about God as being, as Kenny just said, it's not the same thing like how we exist. Like his is even beyond that. Like it's just an analogical statement because we don't necessarily exist in any intrinsic independent way whatsoever. So you
Right.
can't.
Existence is not ours essentially.
Right. His is essential. It's necessary. It's absolute. It's unavoidable. There is to our ontology, for it to even function, you cannot even conceive of nor allow for, because it's philosophically and theologically incoherent. You can't say a possible world is a universe without a God. It's an
Exactly.
incoherent, it's an
It's the
incoherent
dumbest
thing
thing
to
I've
say.
ever heard.
Exactly.
Didn't
But
Craig say it?
Craig said it, and
Yeah,
many
that's dumb.
atheist challengers have said it. That where they, yes, and I was irritated too when I heard Craig say that. It took
It's like saying
Molinism.
there's a possible world that's not a world.
Right.
It's not a duck.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yes. So it's
Go
just the
Ducks. Hey,
worst thing.
Shayla.
And the things that you will cataclysmically create systemically in terms of theological problems from that are massive. Okay. Like once you stretched it to that level, you're making God no longer logical. And keep in mind too, the understanding that God is by his essence and in essentiality. There is order, there is logic, there is principle, there is reason. Wisdom is something. What the heck is wisdom? But it's directly related in essence of God as in being the primary and source of all, which means he is wisdom. If we're following this to the divine simplicity route. So he
And
is wisdom.
in the Septuagint, it is the Logos of God that creates. What's the Logos of God? The wisdom of
Word,
God.
the
Proverbs
word
8.
wisdom. So think
Yeah.
about this. Think about
This is
this.
the way we explain the Trinity, which is,
Yes.
yeah, we can't even get into that. That's what, chapter 6 or chapter 4 in my book, anyway.
What are
So
God thoughts? Smokey, what are God thoughts? I finally understand. I finally understand.
Do you realize how stupid the inquiry is? It's like he's asking me, like, what does purple taste like? Like, it's like, it's like he just doesn't understand how stupid he's sounding because he's so theologically incompetent. Jay Styles is a moron. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
One more thing. I actually brought that out now because I now I got a grasp of this now. God doesn't have
And we're actually
He's
in
the
a very
source
good
of the
place to
thought.
stop here. So good.
Yeah.
This is good
oh,
to
are
start
we? Okay.
chatting. Yeah, I think we are, because it's pretty heavy, and I think it's really a good place to,
Well, we can always
explain.
maybe even do a part 2 later
Like
or something like
he
that.
isn't. He isn't.
If you
He
guys want to
doesn't.
join, hold on, Boki. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Let me just tell people if they want to join, links in the side chat. If you want to come in and say something, I don't know.
If you could highlight Shayla's
10 people
statement
watching.
about the guy who makes duck videos wrote this book.
This is written
What's-
by the same guy who's been making duck videos. This is a whole new side.
To explain myself a little bit, because my thoughts are so like deep and serious, I have to enter into a world of childhood in order to like be sane. So you see the dichotomy of who I am in super, super deep, super serious, but then as goofy as I'll get out to the point that I'm irritating. Anyway.
Sure.
As I was saying, I finally I actually get this now. It's like whenever J Styles says something like, "What are God thoughts?" It's not that God has thoughts or thoughts come into his mind. He is the source of all thought. Did I get that right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So
Exactly.
that is why when somebody puts a God could have statement, I would say even by this book, in accordance to this book, is an ad hoculum. It doesn't matter what you think he could have done. This is what he is, this is what he does, and there's nothing you could do to change it.
Right. Right. Yeah. You have to be able to, if you're going to challenge in any type of functional way for an internal critique of the Christian theology and the Christian God, you have to realize that our base level principle is the understanding of God being beyond time. Time is a physical construct, it's a physical part of our reality. Okay. God is outside and beyond that. God himself, theologically and philosophically, cannot have chronology applied to him. That leads to a necessary infinite regress, philosophical fatalism. It just doesn't work. You cannot apply chronology to God. It's one of the beautiful things about our claim is that our God, unlike many other pagan deities or historic ancient Near East deities, our God is not ever stated to actually have a genesis or an origin. Uh, the rest of the God claims they're created, they come out of the chaos waters, they're the product of some sort of, cataclysmic event. There's some sort of genesis of them. There's not really a statement out there of a God who simply is and always was. It's such a reach in terms of a claim of philosophy to say that, and it begs the wonderment of something representing itself in such a way as if to basically openly admit, I'm beyond all of you, I transcend all of you, and you can't possibly completely fully quantify me in your finite thinking. That's a sound, solid, good representation of what would I expect to find if there was a God, that he would indeed be transcendent, that he would indeed be timeless. Now, the nature of God being timeless carries with it many implications. There's no potentiality with God, there's no pondering, there's no wondering which thing to do, there's no sequence of events to him. The decision to create, and despite what the modal collapse fanatic retards want to keep saying about it is his eternal choice. It is a choice made in an eternal state, because again, it's outside of time. So think about it this way: God being timeless, no potential states, no sequence of events, no thought after thought, everything about him being itself, the essence of who he is, being eternal, and all of that of his essence eternally, without end, without sequence, outside of time. So his thoughts are eternal thoughts, non sequential, non dependent, non contingent. They are ultimate, they are absolute, they are not dependent upon other things or dependent on the reception of information. They simply are. So that is the idea, that the decision to reality, it's not like there was a time that God had not yet decided to create the universe. Incoherent statement to think that way. The decision to create the universe is an eternal one, but it's still a willful decision to do so. You can't take the chronology component of it and try to stretch that itself into a modal collapse for God's free will. God's free will being expressed in eternal state is what diffuses their challenge, because they are requiring a very analytical, sequential, chronological conceptual of God. That's not the Christian God. That's a straw man God. That's not our God. So it's an invalid internal critique. They have to attribute the timelessness nature to him, and that his free will decisions are of an eternal state of affairs. There was never a time where he was thinking about creating or had not yet decided to create. These are incoherent statements for an eternal, timeless being. It always was intended of his free will to create reality. It was always known what decision he would make, how reality turned out. The lamb who was slain before the foundations of the world. You know, everything that happened, everything that occurred, everything that God would choose to do was already decided. And now I'm not going to take this to a Molinist approach yet. That's going to take it to a deeper layer, but let's just stick here for right now. But whatever reality manifests, whatever the secondary agents chose to manifest, and he knew what they would choose to manifest, his choices of what to do were already decided before anything was even created. Now, from a Molinist, I would say whichever line of that reality followed, and it could have followed the line where we actually did what we were told and chose to do right and follow the path of goodness, that was a potential reality. That's a possible reality, but we didn't. So God's decisions of what to do in that reality and God's decisions of what to do in this reality were all made before anything was ever created. Now that's Molinism. Kenny doesn't agree with that. So, but that was just my final little spin on that last tail end of it anyway. The rest of it he should agree with. So,
Well,
I'm
I
just
will
proud of
remember
my apprentice. That's all I'm saying.
beautiful.
I'm proud of my senpai
You've embraced the dark side, great.
I'm proud of my senpai too.
This is, this is the thing though,
There you
that
go.
if we can get even just the common Christians a little bit more well grasped with even these concepts, these perspectives, they will start to give all of the atheists a real serious run for their money. All of their philosophical.
Not only that,
Yeah,
I was just going to say,
Go
not
ahead.
only that, worship at church. Can you think, I mean, if you have a truly biblical understanding of God and his greatness, it transforms your worship.
It almost makes you think that
Very, very practical.
It almost makes you think that we should like go on tour or something and visit some churches and see if they're interested in having you speak or something like that.
Yeah, I just need a handler, That's been my biggest issue. Tammy's busy, and I need a handler to kind of, focus me toward, some actual, I don't know, stuff that makes, a difference instead of duck videos. But
well, this was a substantive stream, and it went on your channel, so
well, yeah.
You just had to tolerate a little bit of.
I can be serious. Yeah.
You just had to tolerate a little bit of Kincaid there for a couple minutes.
Yeah, but he's cute. Have you ever seen that Koala-cade picture?
It's it is. You know what? It's addictive. Like I want a poster of it. Like, and part of it is because I do really know how much it irritates the hell out of him. Like, and that
does that make us bad? Are we bad?
Probably, yeah, probably. That does make us a little evil, I think. Yeah, just knowing how much that picture irritates him, and also how kind of catchy it is. Just the look on his face, like for that picture is just so outstanding.
It's so much fun. I mean, he's so adorable.
He's like an agitated Dexter.
I spared him from the idea of purchasing and having shipped a koala toy for baby Kincaid. I spared Will Kincaid that. And then he told me that Guru lady had beat me to it, that she had already sent the koala toy for baby Kincaid, and that he loves it and sleeps with it every night, and it irritates the hell out of Will. Yeah, so we have found a way to troll Will inside his very own home with his own child. I think we're all very evil people. I think that's
definitely. Or there is a God.
You know what?
Maybe
I can remember the cadence the same way where he actually expresses that Guru beat you to it, Smokey.
Yes.
And he said something along the lines of, "He sleeps with it, you fucks."
Yeah, I think he did say something almost exactly like that, actually. I do recall. Yeah.
Well, all I know is this, that whenever...
I wasn't sure if he had said that on a phone conversation or a stream, but now that I think
that was a stream.
Yeah, it was a stream. That's right. He didn't say that.
Well, the lesson that I get from this now is that if an atheist will come to you and ask you what God is made of, now that he is already making an illogical leap where he's adding temporals into a non-temporal thing. And that doesn't make God logical, but it makes the stupid inquirer illogical.
Well, no, if they want to talk about those types of God, here's the thing. If they want to start doing that, if they want to start fumbling the concept of analogous predication, number one, or number two, they want to start attributing chronology of God, it's a good leverage point to point out, like, well, wait a minute, that might apply to pretty much every single one of the other deities. In fact, the closest you might, I mean, off the top of my head, and granted, I haven't researched literally every single religion, but I will tell you this. Every religion I have researched has a deity with some type of genesis or origin to it. So when an atheist comes to you and wants to start applying chronology to the Christian God, I mean, even Brahman, Brahman has a life cycle of like 4 billion years, and we're like 3 times overdue for the universe is supposed to have a massive reset. Something like that. I mean, even Hinduism, Buddhism, like there's nothing that gives them a justification of something existentially transcendental. They just don't have any justification for it. Everything is centralized and physical and has an origin and a chronology to it. So once an atheist starts applying chronology to the God claim, you can tell them, well, that'll work for pretty much every other God claim, but not the Christian God. And you can actually show them that they should consider the Christian God differently simply out of its uniqueness. Because they love to say, oh, there's like so many thousand religions out there. That Christianity is true. One of the things that should help us point to Christianity being true has to do with the uniqueness and coherency of the claim of that.
No, it has to do with God giving us the Sabbath. That means he's created us. He gave us the Sabbath, right?
God is immune to analogous
inside joke. I'm sorry, folks. Inside joke.
That made me, seriously, Kenny, I was so mad. I had to vent at Kenny last night about it because I was so mad that Jamie said something so dumb at me right at the tail end of all of that I didn't get the answer to my previous question. Instead of getting the answer to my previous question, I got that thrown at me. And that I was angry, and I told Kenny how angry I was and how stupid that was, and that it just blew my mind. I actually said
I told Smokey that Well, I told Smokey that, now he knows how Tammy feels when I say dumb things.
I said to Jamie in side chat today, because of course he started poking at me almost instantaneously. I said, Jamie, go take a day off and get some rest. Does that make me God now? I asked him that. Because apparently,
You gave him a Sabbath.
if someone gives you a Sabbath, that makes them God, I guess. That's where his argument goes. So I commanded him to have a Sabbath. So I guess that now makes me, I'm even better than Ellen now. I'm the one that was giving Ellen orders. So I'm even higher than Ellen because I handed out that Sabbath. So there you
You're also the one that hit her with a
There
rock.
you go.
go. That's hateful. That's hateful. Okay, well, this
Yeah.
was a good show. This is a good idea, Kenny. Kenny was bored and he was up and he was bugging
Yeah,
me.
I thought it was.
So
Yeah, I thought it was profitable. I think, I was going to ask you, maybe our 2 or 3 fans that we have. I know it's Aunt Ruth, my mom, your grandma. We should ask them if we should do shows together on a semi-regular basis and kind of, talk seriously about some of the deeper things. I think it'd be kind of cool.
sure. Yeah, why not?
Smokey actually made up my
You know
mind.
what defeats me about that, Kenny, honestly, what seems kind of sad and tragic about it is I do think I don't know, I just feel it. Because
You
I've
don't
been
like
getting
me? I knew
no,
that.
no, 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 no. I've been really seriously, I've been very cynical about some of this environment and some of what I've seen. Like, if you just go out and look at the number of really, really blatantly bad heretical channels. I mean, even like Marcus Rogers or Kenneth Copeland or any of the prosperity preachers or the New Apostolic Reformation or Hillsong or Bethel or any of the like mega churches. And there are thousands just that appear, and then hundreds of thousands that watch and grab onto every single poisonous word. And I'm really cynical. Like, I honestly do feel this feels in terms of a temperature of an environment type of way. If we don't have some sort of I don't know, weird charismatic super revival that goes on, like, this is almost it. Like, this is the great falling away. Like, this is, I just don't know that anyone's ever gonna care, honestly, at this point. I'm getting
It's really
cynical
what you
about
might call the Great Duck Cline. This is the Duck Cline of Christianity.
the Doug Klein.
To make you feel better, I'm going to have Shayla. She's my PR person. She's my representative. And I'm going to have her send you a University of Oregon Go Ducks shirt to make you feel better. Because you're pretty upset and grumpy as of late. You put a smile on your face. What do you say, Boki?
You know,
Do it.
you got to look at you know what's really sad. You take a look at, say, if you were to put up a Catholic church, just like a regular kind of like local Catholic assembly or something like that. You'll see probably at regular intervals at least half of it, maybe a quarter of it empty. And I don't think the Catholics are all necessarily in safe places. Some of their doctrines, I think, are very dangerous, idolatrous,
Smokey, would
bordering
you highlight
blasphemous.
Shayla's comment there? She's apologizing to you.
Oh, sorry, Smokey. Yeah, shame on you for that. He's terrible enough as it is, and you're just making him worse. Anyway,
Pray
Yeah,
for
uh,
Tammy, people. Pray for Tammy, please.
if you take a look at just a typical local assembly of a Catholic church, half, maybe a quarter full, generally best case scenario. Okay, now put that in comparison with any of these prosperity preaching mega churches, and even really not even the mega churches themselves as you might think of them, but simply those that do preach the prosperity gospel. And just look at the fact that they are always stuffed, packed full. I'll tell you guys something. There is a prosperity church that I visited a few years ago. Not a few years ago, probably. This is actually like 6, 7 years ago. It's a while ago. Now, I didn't really grab onto them. I should have known better. I think a little bit earlier than I did. But they were very charismatic, and it took me a bit of time, to my shame, to really latch on to. I was so willing to be accommodating and not want to be judgmental. And you know what? I think maybe because when I've lacked doing that, it's caused problems and difficulty and pain. That now when I see the red flags, when I see it there, I really want to make sure that it's known and that I bring it up, because my lackadaisical or overly accommodating decisions in the past were unwise and just ended up causing pain or difficulty. So, to my shame, I should have been way more judgmental about these people much earlier on. And I think I would have been better off. But anyway, very much a business. It wasn't a church, it was a business. Every session was a few words of general overall encouragement. Never talk of repentance of sins, never talk of what the gospel actually is. Just God wants you happy, and God's going to provide, and the great provider, and this and that. And it's very charismatic, very emotion driven, lots of lights and music and things like that. And the people at beginning seem to be very accommodating, inviting, kind, prayerful, all that type of stuff. But it's only after a little bit of time that the dirt starts to come out. And I tried to reach out to them for assistance for some people who were Christian and in actual desperate need. I tried to get them for, prayers, for people that were in need, asking if I could get them to, meet up or have a prayer session or something like this, and just constantly ignored. They were always there to answer the phone, to take a credit card. But if you really actually needed something and were going there and practicing and regularly attending and tithing and doing all that, but if you needed something, well, you can just go piss off down the road. And it was very disappointing and kind of painful. And I was thinking to myself, well, hell, I could have just kept the money I've given to this church, and then I could have helped these people I'm asking the church to help. Well, screw the church. And I got real bitter, by the way, after that to local assemblies, and have been relatively bitter to them ever since. I'm surrounded. It's not necessarily all the people's fault. They can't help it. They're probably just trying to do what I was doing, trying to be accommodating and giving benefit of the doubt, not wanting to be judgmental and all that stuff. But that just creates problems. It does. The body of Christ not wanting to give account to each other anymore, or say anything that might offend or convict or anything like that, or exhort or build up in the faith. It's just weird. There's just a real lack of real sense of spirit among most of this today. And yeah, I spent too much time and too much money and too much effort believing in, giving benefit of the doubt to what was, I think, really just a temple of Satan. And I'm glad I came out of it. I'm glad I had to suffer in a way to get me out of it, because apparently I needed to, and praise God for that, because then I did recognize it for the cancerous cesspit that it was. So praise God for that, I suppose. But they're still operating in Palm Desert, right around where I live. They still have their regular sessions. They still talk about all their wonderful new buildings they're going to build, and me, and great. And I prayed for this house, years ago, and now I'm living in this house, and God provides, and sow your seed, and all this other horse shit. But well, that's how they turn their buck, and their church grows. Their church grows every single year. They started in a small assembly, and they've grown. They have thousands of members at this point. What is the state of all of those people, really? When they go in and they believe this false nonsense, this substanceless gospel, this thing that offers them nothing but the promise of physical benefit and physical gain. What the hell does it say about those people when they actually end up getting it? You see, like, I ended up getting humbled and inflicted in order to get broken away from that spell from that church. But you know what? I saw people in that church that actually were claiming to get prosperity and benefits from following this formula. What does that say about them? Why was I humbled and pulled out, and why were they validated and encouraged into? Why were they given a strong delusion? That is a
When
strong
I
delusion, right,
can you hear me
Kenny?
okay?
Kenny, that's a
Can you hear
strong
me?
yeah, I can hear you. That is a
Okay,
strong
I'm sorry.
delusion, right? Where you go into an assembly believing a false gospel, sowing a false seed, believing in something dangerous and perverse, and then you get that thing that you're chasing. You get rewarded on that path of depravity. What does that say?
You know, I for a minute I saw the game of, denominationalism and playing church and stuff, and I saw it, and I don't know. I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot toot. I know that I have charisma, and I could play a game, and I could manipulate people, and show my charm and all that kind of stuff. But I thought, you know what? I'm too honest to play this game. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to do it lovingly. I do love people. I am a semi nice guy, depending on who you ask. But I just couldn't play the game. And I found myself, though, pulled into the game. And it's a long story. I won't even bore everybody with it. But I've finally come to really embrace who I am as Kenny, who God called me to, because I got sucked into this like cookie cutter form of what a pastor's supposed to look like. So when I, got hired at the church, cut my hair, bought me my Dockers and a golf shirt, and it I was I didn't, I wasn't being dishonest. It was like I felt like this is what I had to do. But now I'm at the point where it's like, frankly, I know who I am in Christ. If you don't like me, fine. If you like me, fine. I'm finally at the point where I actually like myself, and I'm okay with myself. And it took a lot of healing from the Lord, and it's only 6 months old. And I finally come to that place where I can accept who I am, embrace my calling, and I feel like I can conquer the world. I'm just at the beginning of what God's called me to. Excuse me. But it's the game. It's a game. It really is. I attend a very large church, and I can't say a whole lot about it because this is a public platform. They have no desire to even, pick my brain. They have a guy who teaches a course for Regent University under the auspices for Reasons to Believe that is actually a practical evangelism course on how to apply apologetics and evangelize people. And I've never been consulted, never been asked. And they've been going about, hey, let's throw a big old giant Oktoberfest, and let's have jump houses, and let's have food, and face painting and let's make people feel good. And with COVID, finally, it destroyed this whole idea of, let's entertain people and bring them in. I'm hoping one of these days they'll actually like, hey, maybe Kenny has something to offer. They know who I am. They know all about me. I think it's intimidation, but that's a whole other issue. But it's a cancer in the churches. I do see some things changing. I see God's people, the real Christians out there. I see them desiring something different, desiring some depth, desiring some real life, not this super.
Well, I like to stick around, but I gotta go
Sorry, my
into this.
earbud fell out there, but
Yeah, I gotta get into
go
this
ahead, Boki.
office. I gotta get into this Zoom office meeting, but thank you guys for having me here. It was a pleasure. I really like what we've read and the points so far, and yeah, I guess this knowledge about God should also change our worship in a more practical sense. So yeah, because of who He
Hey,
is.
Boki, could you say that?
Yeah.
Could you say that thing you said, like when Praise was reviewing my debate with Richard Carrier? You said that I was your favorite what?
You're my favorite apologist and theologian.
That's beautiful.
That's what I said.
God bless you. Yeah, that's
You're
beautiful.
welcome.
One more time.
But-
One more time, please.
Yeah. At this point, my
I
friends,
hear the train coming.
Kenny Rhodes is my favorite Christian apologist by far, number one, and SmokeySaint is my best elder, and he teaches me how to curse without doing it bombastically.
Always with utility. Always with utility.
Of course.
I've got a little
All right.
tear in my eye.
Aw, don't be like that, Kenny. Anyway, I gotta join this.
He
Zoom
doesn't
meeting
get
now.
compliments often, so
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
look who
geez.
I live with. Yeah, Tammy. She's like Smokey. It's like, no nonsense. Cut the crap, Kenny. You're stupid. Would you stop acting like an idiot? Would you take the garbage out? Like I said, before you forget, I have to tell you 100 times. I'm tired of it. Stop. Get that stupid smile off your face. Turn your disgusting rock music off and get in here and cook me some dinner. She's mean.
Wow. Well, that can be mean too. But yeah, so I gotta get going. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm glad I found this community. It's actually useful to me. So yeah,
glad to hear,
thank you.
Boki.
God bless you both, guys. I hope that we get to do this again.
Anytime, bro. Anytime.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Call
God bless you,
call
friend.
me. Yeah. God bless you. Call me if you're horny, Smoke.
Did you kick him out?
No, he ran away.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Oh,
I love it. I love our community. They're unique. All right. Well, I guess that's all I had. Is there any final statements you wanted to say?
not really.
Are you just going to stay up for a bit and keep bugging me? Is that what you're going to do?
Probably. I'm going to send you texts.
Yeah,
I'm going
I
to send
believe
you
it.
like I found this little thing. Did you know that your phone could send like what's called emojis, and they're like
I was
these like
familiar with
little
that.
cartoons.
Yes, I was.
Yeah,
familiar
I'm
with
going to
that.
send you a bunch of emojis tonight.
Oh, beautiful.
Like
Great.
smileys, musical notes.
Excellent. I definitely look forward to that. Beautiful. Excellent. Wonderful. Fun time. Super cool.
Highlight Shayla's last or second to last, or the one that talks about that's normal marriage.
That's
Okay.
normal.
How does she
marriage.
know? She's in school. She's in high school. How could she know what a normal marriage is?
Dude, she's very wise. She's,
Ah, there you go. Go to bed, Shayla. Oh, turn your phone off.
See?
You see the kind of crap I
Shut
get? People love to hate me.
Awesome. Says I was married for 10 years. Okay. Wow.
Whoa, did you get
That's
married
quite a
in kindergarten or what? Now, Tammy did get married to a kindergartner, so I do want to make that distinction.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. She lucked out. She's happy. Sure. Okay, Kenny, anything else before I kick you out?
No, but let me set it up, so we can get the memes going. So, hold on, let me clear my throat. Okay, ready? I
Ready.
believe the children are our future.
Oh,
Teach
God.
them.
I can't even with it. He knows how to make me kick him out. I add to that stinking garbage. The children in their current state are not our future. They're our destruction. They're all confused about their gender and sexuality and what's right and what's wrong, and what's up and what's down. And you should all mourn for them and not sing songs of, potent optimism at a time that is particularly dark and gloomy and oppressively evil. Anyway, God bless you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you to everyone for your attendance. I hope you had a fun time and got some out of this. I appreciate you guys. I love this little community we have. I am going to go kick back and relax. So take care of yourselves. I appreciate you guys. Peace to all the true saints. And I am signing out.